So, unity is grounded in affirmative prayer and meditation. And of course, we have our trained prayer chaplains here this morning, Marianne and Anne Marie and myself. And so if you have a prayer request, don't hesitate to tap us on the shoulder and we will find a quiet place after service this morning. If you have a prayer need during the week, you can always email that to neil.unityofpayson@gmail.com. We hold them sacred, confidential for 30 days, and then they get sent on to Silent Unity where they are held for another 30 days. So our theme continues. This is the last Sunday of giving and receiving. And our speaker today is our own Reverend Neil Worthington, and his talk title, "The Present is the Greatest Gift." And isn't that the truth? Living in present moment. Actually, there's no other way to be but to live in present moment. We just fuss about the past and the future. So today's daily word is Christmas, of course. And so let's see if there's a way to remove the chat screen. That's okay. I will say it first and then you can say it with me. With joy, I welcome Christmas. Together, with joy, I welcome Christmas. Far from home, Luke's gospel story tells us Mary and Joseph welcomed a child with only a stable filled with animals as a birthing place and a feeding trough for a cradle. This story reminds me that no state of consciousness is too humble. No station in life is too lowly. And there is no fear that cannot give way to wonder. Wherever it finds a willing, welcoming heart, the Christ will be born. No matter how I am celebrating Christmas, I will carry this awareness with me. Today, I feel the dawning of promise and potential in me as I feel the Christ presence within me afresh and anew. This is the greatest gift I could ever receive and the best gift I have to give. And from Luke, and she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. I like the theme of this daily word because it speaks very much to our present times. If you look out on the world, it's like, yes, there are wonderful things happening, but that's not what they put forth on the news a lot. And so it's a great reminder that we can choose to hold a different spirit at any moment. We can choose to hold joy and compassion and love, no matter what the illusion is going on in the outside world. So yes, I like today's reading. And now, Reverend Neil, for our message for the day.
Merry Christmas again. It brings all sorts of surprises. For those of you who are joining us online, you've heard the vocals for some of the music, but not the wonderful, it sounds like an organ this morning that Phyllis has gifted us with as we sing some of these carols. There's a story that's told about a man who is walking in the jungle, and all of a sudden he heard a sound behind him and he looked over his shoulder and there was a tiger. And he began to walk faster and then began to run as the tiger kept pace with him and in fact was getting closer and closer. He didn't look too carefully about where he was going, but he found himself all of a sudden on the edge of a cliff. He couldn't stop himself. And so he began to tumble over the cliff and grabbed at anything for safety. And a very stout vine was there, which he was able to grab and prevent his fall to the valley below. The tiger, of course, didn't take the same route over the cliff, but as the man looked down, he found at the bottom of the cliff in the valley another tiger. So he was in a bit of a quandary. And as he's hanging there, he notices two small mice begin to crawl down the vine above him. And the mice begin to gnaw on the vine. So he was in a more precarious position than ever. And in this situation, he cast his eyes to the right slightly, and there on the vertical face of the cliff was a strawberry plant, and a very ripe strawberry. He just thought how succulent that would be if he'd be able to eat that strawberry. And so, putting aside what had happened before and what might have happened down below, should he fall, should the mice gnaw through the vine, he reached out, holding on with one hand, and plucked that strawberry and blissfully consumed it. I'm not going to end the story. I'm just going to postpone the other part of the story until later. So that's the story of two tigers, two mice, and a strawberry. This, as we will see, as I try to develop it for you, is about the past, present, and future. Except today, when we look at it, we're not going to be past, present, and future. We're going to go past, future, and we're going to end with the present. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. Let's start with the past. The past is a funny thing. We're looking over our shoulder, almost like the man escaping the tiger, continually. It's very easy to be looking backward in the rearview mirror. But the past is the realm of judgment. We look back on things and we make judgments about them, judgments about ourselves, judgments about other people, judgments about the situation. So it's not a very good reference point to work from. If you're a student of A Course in Miracles, you'll recognize the language here of this consideration of the present and the past. You consider it natural to use your past experience as the reference point from which to judge the present. Yet this is unnatural because it is delusional. When you have learned to look on everyone, and yourself, I might add, with no reference to the past, you will be able to learn from what we see now. As spiritual beings, not just physical beings in this world, but as spiritual beings in this world, in our life, in this town, in this room, or in the room where you are, we are more than the judgments we make about the past. We are not confined to the realm of judgment. The past is also the realm of regret. How many times do you stew over a regret about something you did? How many times do you not know that in the present there is an opportunity to leave behind those regrets? The past is also the realm of anger. I don't mean just getting angry at something that happens and feeling our true emotion. I mean holding on to that anger again and again, and month after month and year after year. The realm of anger, which does not serve us. And the past is also the realm of fear most of all. Fear it is that rules our lives so much when we're considering the past, when we're living in the past, when that's what's occupying our thoughts. There's a scripture in 1 Corinthians, I believe, that says, perfect love casts out fear. So it is love. And though we may have memories of a loving experience, love is a present time thing. So we look to the past at our peril, judgment, anger, fear, regret. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live there. Let's jump to the future. The future is that state where we worry. I like to say that worry is a misuse of the imagination because we're imagining something that hasn't happened yet. And we worry. The scripture in Matthew of the Christian scriptures tells us about this and admonishes us not to worry, not to spend our time worrying about what may or may not happen. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about tomorrow, what you will eat or drink, or what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your lifespan? So we've looked at the past and we're looking at the future now, another place that we may not want to spend most of our time. The future is places where we say, I should go out and do this tomorrow. Or in the past, we said, I should have done that. But in the future, we say, I should do this. And we're shoulding on ourselves all the time. And it's really a looking back to the past. It's kind of reproducing an experience that may have happened back here in the past that we can't leave behind. Or not only worry or shoulds, the future is a place of fantasy, a place where we fantasize about something that would just make our life perfect. I don't mean dream. I make a distinction between dream and fantasy. Dream is something we visualize in the present, by the way, in the present that we look to see manifest in our lives. But it's all in the present. The dream is in the present. And the fantasy is something that just floats away into the ethers. It's not real. It has no sense of reality. It doesn't connect with our true being, our higher self. It's just a little bit of an ego trip in an unusual sort of a way, the way of fantasy. And now we get to the present. Having looked at the past and the future just a little bit, let me give you this succinct key spiritual truth that I find here. When you live in the present moment, the eternal now, you are free from fear and fantasy and open to bliss. Remember that man blissfully reaching out for that strawberry and consuming it, despite all that happened before and what might happen in the future. In Unity, we have a saying that you'll often hear, or you might have said a number of times, and it has to do with the present. There is only one power and one presence in the universe and in my life. God, the good, omnipotent. When we look at past, present, and future. We look with eyes that see it all in a line. A very linear kind of thinking. It's time. One thing happens after another. And yes, that's part of the world that we function in. But from a spiritual perspective, it's not so. Time is not as we think it to be. I love the work of Eckhart Tolle, and you may have read The Power of Now. That idea that the presence is there. He's not talking about time. He's just talking about this moment, the only time that there really is. And here's what he says. Realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make now the primary focus of your life. I like to think of it as one day at a time, one thing at a time, one way at a time. And that way is living from spirit, where there is only one time, the eternal now. I love that phrase, the eternal now, because it's so expansive. You know, we think of right now as being relatively limited, and we miss all the past. But no, the eternal now is expansive beyond limit. And yet it is right here and now. All of it is right here for us now. I often quote from Emily Cady, Lessons in Truth. But Emily Cady wrote a couple of other books, How I Used Truth and How to Let God Help You. A neat little book. Here's what she says about this. I think it may be the first reference to the eternal now in the English language anyway. She, of course, refers to the past a little bit. The restrictions of yesterday have no power to overshadow our lives today when we realize that we are in the eternal now. Let us begin our day with newness of thought and courage. Let us, at the beginning of a new year, which is about to come, throw open the doors of our hearts and homes, open to the new. Here's another word I didn't have before, the newing, she says, newing, and N-E-W-I-N-G, the newing process, she calls it a process, comes first in mind. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Of course, we know that, and we speak about it often, how what we hold in our focus, what we hold in mind, is what shows up in our life. But that all holding in our mind is a present activity that determines what will happen. And we can release ourselves from having to think a particular outcome is one that needs to be there. The scripture in the Christian scriptures also says, now is the acceptable time. Now is the day of salvation. But we might not even use the word salvation. We might use now is the day of awakening. Now is the day of manifestation in seed form. Course in Miracles calls this the holy instant. The holy instant. And says this, the willingness to let littleness go. I kind of equate littleness with the past and the future, and not the eternal, expansive now. Littleness. The willingness to let littleness go. A time to receive and accept, and I would add, and give everything. The present moment. We have 4 cats in our house. And I like to say, live like a cat. None of my cats think about what happened 10 seconds ago. None of them worry about the future. None of them even fear the future. They're right there in that present moment. Eckhart Tolle said, I have lived with several Zen masters, that meditative place of being in the present moment. And then he says, all of them are cats. There's a practice that has been in vogue for some time. I hope it's waning. I think it's waning because I've found it doesn't work for me, and that's multitasking. Multitasking. The thing about multitasking is we may seem to get a little bit more done, a few more things scratched off our to-do list, but we in fact have not been present to each one of those tasks because we can't divide that up. We have to have a single focus. And the best of all with regard to the present is that's where bliss is. Well, you can have nice memories from the past. You can have wonderful ideas about the future. But you can only experience bliss in the present. Some of you remember Joseph Campbell. And here's what he says. I say, follow your bliss. Don't be afraid of the past. Doors will open to you you didn't even know that were going to be there. Follow your bliss. So we're down to that part where I say, how do I do that? How do I eschew getting mired in the past? How do I stay out of the fantasy, the worry of the future? Well, I'm going to suggest a couple of things. The past is a pretty easy one, but it's difficult to do. Stop telling the story. In your own mind, and anybody else who's willing to listen, and tell that story again and again and again, and you'll stay mired in the past. So there's the easy one. Stop telling the story. Now, put it into practice. Catch yourself when you start to tell that story again, or when your mind goes back there, and choose a different focus. Now, I'll give you an idea of how you might do that as well. How to stay out of the future. Anybody know about lucid dreaming? Lucid dreaming is something where when you awaken from a dream in that state where you're still in that dream state and you don't like the dream, you can go back and you can change that dream. It's possible. Go look up lucid dreaming if you've never done that. And I think that's where we're at as spiritual beings. We're sometimes in a dream, a nightmare, and we get to choose to change the script. Let go of fantasies. Hold on to the dream and choose the dream that you visualize as being connected with the real you. And then one other thing, delight in the present. How do we get there? How do I stop the monkey mind? How do I stay right in the present? I'm going to give you 3 little tips. One of them may work for you. It's different for all of us. You can be in the present by doing a body scan. Body scan is simply this. You quiet yourself and you notice your breath, maybe to start with. And then you look at a part of your body, maybe the whole body, but at least a part of your body. And you begin to focus on that. And you scan your body and you say, how does it feel? How do my feet feel? How are my toes feeling? You know, if you do that, even for 15 seconds, you'll be in the present. You'll be in the present. Body scan, number 1. Number 2, meditation. You say, oh, I'm not very good at meditation. I'm a little hard on that. Well, you know, there are thousands and thousands, maybe millions of guided meditations. If you can't have your own meditation practice fully developed like you'd like it, get some help with it. Put on a guided meditation. Read a guided meditation. It'll bring you to the present. And then finally, something that I know some of you already do, express gratitude. Get your journal out and add to your gratitude list. That'll bring you back to the present, which is the only time there is, the eternal now. Last evening we had a service, Christmas Eve service. It was a brief and quiet and meditative time. And in the little message that I gave then, we looked at the journey to Bethlehem and gave it a metaphysical significance. Of course, we do that in Unity. We look beyond the words of the story to the deeper meaning that connects with us, that's underneath it. Well, this can even be true of the story we started with. 2 tigers, 2 mice, and a strawberry. Let's look at a couple elements of those story. The top of the cliff and everything up there is the past. Nothing can change that past. Only holding it in consciousness can make it replay in your life. The bottom of the cliff, the future, what might or might not happen. The tigers, both the past and the future. The vine, the material world, the world that we live in, that we're in. The 2 mice, the passage of time, which we know is not really like we think time is. And here we go. The strawberry is the present. The strawberry is the present. That moment of bliss, despite everything that might happen and everything that has happened, the only time that is the eternal now. Here's a little quote. You probably heard it before, maybe with slightly different words. The past is history. The future is a mystery. The present is the greatest gift. And that's why we call it the present. And so it is.
And as we prepare for meditation, our song will be Away in a Manger.
Words are on the slides on the screen, but this is really just a very meditative solo. I thought you might like to follow the words as I play it.
As Phyllis continues to play, let's begin our meditation. Time of quiet. Let's do what we proposed. Let's, as much as we can, shed all of the past and all of the future for this moment in the eternal now. Let's breathe and pay attention to our breath. And then let's look at our body, not with physical eyes, with spiritual eyes. And let's start with our head. Your head. What is it feeling today? You move down. Your cheeks, your ears. How are they feeling? Your shoulders, the strong part of your arms, and down to your fingers. Focus on them. Then come back and see your chest breathing in and out, that breath of life. Down to your waist, your tummy. How are you feeling? What sensation is there? And then your legs, your knees, your feet, and even your toes. What sensation is there? We are in the present moment. The only time that there is. We're in a place where we can listen with spiritual ears to the intuitions given us by the divine. A place where we can be comforted. We're in a place where we can be excited and celebrate. Take a moment now to just spend time in this present moment. Bring your awareness back to the physical present, to the chair you're sitting in, to this day, Christmas Day 2022, and be grateful. And as you emerge back into this physical present, take a deep breath. Open your eyes. Wiggle those fingers and those toes and bring that present moment back with you. Revisit it again and again and again. Replay that in your movie life. And so it is.
That was lovely. Thank you, Phyllis, for during the meditation, and thank you, Neil, for such a pertinent message in this day and age. Another breath, so I can come back all the way, be on purpose here. Now's the time for our gifts and our offerings. Unity is really grateful for all of your gifts that help support us and go out to the larger community. As we, in a moment, will be listening to the offering song, you'll have time to make your contribution. And for those online, the slides are up on how you can give. You can be going to the site and going to the donate button. And so let's bring our attention to your gift, to this present moment. And let's make a commitment to being here in the present moment and letting the stress of the past and the future just evaporate, just being here. And let's say our affirmation together. Freely we give and freely we receive. And the song, our offering song, is We Three Kings.
This is We Three Kings with the original lyrics to it. We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts, we traverse afar. Field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Born a king on Bethlehem's plain, gold I bring to crown him again. King forever, ceasing never, over us all to reign. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Frankincense to offer have I, incense songs of deity nigh, prayer and praising all are raising, worshiping God most high. Oh, 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 star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
Great. Don't you love having live music? After being online, we're grateful that we can do that, but so nice to be back here together. So, and we're going to say our dedication of offering, and remember, a few of the words have changed, so just follow along. Divine love flowing through us blesses and multiplies all that we are, all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. We are abundant, prosperous. We are grateful, and we give thanks. And so it is. Okay, and on to announcements. And so we start a new theme for January. Yes, grace. And let's say the affirmation together. I am transformed as I receive and extend divine grace. And that actually ties in nicely with your giving and receiving theme from this month. And of course, our speaker will be Reverend Neil, and his talk title, The Wonders of Divine Grace. And so now here are a few announcements, and all of our meetings are on Zoom, and they are on a love offering basis. And if there is something that meets in person, that'll be noted. So of course we have morning cafe Monday through Saturday at 9:30. We have the Qigong and Tai Chi, moving meditation with Teresa, that's Sundays and Wednesdays at 4:30. And highway cleanup is monthly on the third Thursday. And if you want to participate in that, see Neil, because that fluctuates a little bit around people's schedules. And of course, we always have organic gardening down at Shanti Olmsted, and Ram happens to be here. So if you're interested in getting into that, see Ram. And a big announcement here, as we've started meeting again, we had that hiatus because so many people had COVID and flu and colds. That's why we were meeting online. Anyway, we're back to having our potlucks, usually on the first Sunday. But this in January, we're going to have it on January 8th because that is the annual membership meeting. Where we vote on board members, and there'll be a couple of small changes to the bylaws, and just to get input from everybody and bring you up to date on what's going on and what Neil's vision is as we move forward. And so that's all I have right now. And Neil, do you have a PS? And be sure and stay after because we want to socialize, and Phyllis will be continuing to play, and her postlude song is going to be Chestnuts Roasting.
So I just want to say thanks to Phyllis and to Jennifer for leading out in the music this morning. It felt good to sing some of those songs that we know so well. Afterwards, if you're here in person and you're socializing, do so with caution. If someone has a mask on or kind of steps back a little bit from you, give them the space, and we will all be careful. I know I will be a little bit careful. I'm going to try not to get too close to anybody. I'm all free and clear, but I've been there in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So that's about it. But I would say this one more thing. Stay tuned to the newsletter and any emails. If you see an email come to you from Unity Payson, check it out, because there may be some changes that we're working on doing, and we'll let you know about it. And we'll announce it in multiple ways. So stay tuned. So now it's time for our closing. If you're here in person, would you gather around? Again, giving people space if they want, joining hands if everybody agrees, and we'll sing our peace song and then our prayer for protection to end it.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that is meant to be, with God as creator, family walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me, and this is the moment. With every step I take, this is my joyous song. I take each moment in peace eternal. There is peace on
And the prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. And the presence of God watches over us. I am present. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. So Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. We will not have the conversation today that we sometimes do. So I wish you all who are with us virtually the best of holidays, and we'll see you again at the next thing. Thank you.